Hello gentlemen, I hope you are all doing well. This episode I'm going to examine the film, American Beauty, written by Alan Ball and directed by Sam Mendez. It stars Kevin Spacey as Lester Burnham. Lester is the quintessential suburban beta male dad and husband about to embark on a much-needed midlife crisis. This film came out quite some time ago and therefore I'm not going to be too concerned with dropping spoilers. If you have not seen it yet, you may want to come back to this video after having watched the movie. The film opens with an odd conversation between a teenage girl named Jane and an unseen videographer. She tells him how she needs a father who is a role model and not some horny geek boy who's going to spray his shorts whenever she brings home a girlfriend from school. She suggests that someone should put him out of his misery. The off-camera male videographer asks her, "Want me to kill him for you?" She responds with a deadpan reaction, "Yeah, would you?" Beyond the obvious and ominous nature of these statements, there lies something deeper. The writer wants you to see that this young girl is already well versed in the emasculation and shaming of men, or at least her father. She also has already developed the talent of coaxing other men into white knighting for her and pandering to her obnoxious grievances. And she's also fine gossiping about her family's business on videotape. While I wouldn't want to assume to be certain of the writer and director's motivations, filmmakers do tend to create from experience. This opening scene is a precursor to meeting the film's primary protagonist Lester, the short-spraying father in question. As we hover high above suburbia, Lester begins to speak to us via voiceover and explains how in less than a year he will be dead, and how in many ways he already is. We then begin the journey into Lester's torture chamber of marriage, fatherhood and average Joe employment. He wakes up, heads to the shower and jerks off. He tells us that fapping in the shower will be the high point of his day. For the vast majority of men who are married or in long-term relationships, this is a reality. We meet his ridiculous wife Carolyn, played by Annette Bening. He explains to us how exhausting she is, how she is so vain that she concerns herself with silly minutiae such as making sure her gardening shears match the footwear she's wearing. He watches her as she interacts with the gay couple that lives next door, as both work overtime to be politically correct and normal. A long time ago I was engaged to just such a woman, and I guarantee you that she is very real and walking among us. These women engage with the world like it's some film they are acting in. Life imitating art and art imitating life. It's an endless warped cycle. It's why women who watch tons of reality TV shows about crazed housewives are particularly dangerous. They admire and seek to emulate this behavior. Lester tells us about his angry and insecure teenage daughter Jane, who is played by a pudgy Thora Birch. She is already considering breast augmentation as a normal and sensible thing to do while still in high school. Here the writer demonstrates just how early women jump on board the narcissism train. Lester goes on to tell us about a time where he remembers all of them being happy. What I believe this character remembers is a time when his wife still believed she needed his resources. She in turn projected a certain degree of respect for his utility, and his daughter followed her mother's lead and did the same. The catch, however, in such cases is that these women never really respected Lester the person, Lester's values or Lester's talents. They only respected his ability to provide the material things they wanted. As time went on and Lester's wife began to out-earn him, his usefulness and utility became more and more obsolete. He was after all merely a mule whose only point in life was to make these women happy. With his utility at an all-time low, he becomes a target of constant shaming by both mother and daughter. He is also forced to spend his private time in the home garage and denied sexual gratification. He even rides in the back seat of the family vehicle as if he's a family pet. His household has been transformed into a complete feminist regime. With these women running the household, their lives are filled with conflict and vanity-based endeavors. For the modern Western woman, these are, after all, essentially the only pursuits that seem to matter. Lester is relegated to quietly watching it all from the sidelines and jerking off in the shower. after being called into a meeting at work by some pretentious corporate stooge. Lester realizes his job could be on the line. He seeks to confide in his wife about the chicanery he's being subjected to. She offers him no real support and basically tells him that no matter what the circumstances, he doesn't want to be unemployed. In her mind, as in most women's minds, anything that creates any kind of downturn with regard to a man's resources and utility are forbidden. She'd rather he suffer these injustices in order to maintain the status quo. She did not sign up for an unemployed husband, an ambitious husband, or a husband with backbone. She signed up for a beta male provider. Lester is one of the batteries in the back of her Energizer bunny. She has turned their lives into a totalitarian state in which she is the czar. She demands that it stays that way. When you get a close-up of Carolyn's world as she preps to show a home she's selling, you see just how fragile, tortured and sick she really is. We watch as she abuses herself over her inability to sell a house that day. She also blames her inability to sell homes on Buddy, an alpha male salesman who is known as the real estate king. It has nothing to do with the fact that she's a wacko who yells at herself and smacks herself viciously when her day doesn't go well. Or the fact that she has misrepresented the quality of the home she's selling in her advertising. What's great about the writing here is that it demonstrates the masks women wear out in the world and just how internally volatile they truly are. There's this great moment from another film called X, Night of Vengeance, where the antagonist in the film speaks to male versus female anatomy. I'll paraphrase as I do not remember the exact line, but it went something like, "With men, it's all hanging there. Right out front. What you see is what you get. But not with women, it's like they were built to hide things, built to lie." X is an interesting film and worth watching, even if just for that scene. Anyways, I digress. Back to American Beauty. Lester's midlife crisis catalyst comes in the way of teenage coquette Angela, played by Mgtow. She is the hot high school frenemy of his pudgy daughter. When Lester sees her cheerleading at a school event, his imagination runs wild with thoughts of fucking her. His infatuation is obvious and Mgtow's character gets a charge from Lester's attention. She believes that this kind of attention is exactly why she's special and why she's destined to become a model. She tells Jane how it's no big deal and she has noticed men treating her differently since she was 12. This is where it starts, gentlemen. These women get heavy attention from men from the time they are in middle school and only expect it to get better with time. Thus the delusions about their actual worth and irrational obsessions with vanity-based endeavors. We men get them kick-started with our behavior and must learn to be accountable for the monsters we help create. Jane begins a relationship with her odd new neighbor Ricky. Ricky is a Mgtow who videotapes everything. He believes that Jane is a Nawalt. He runs some pretty solid PUA game in order to immediately break down her shaming tactics and shit testing. He watches her from afar for a while to gain some insight into who she really is. This is a wise tactic because women rarely show you their true self in the midst of confrontation, especially if their coven is present. Ricky eventually approaches her in an open school area, ignores her attempts to rattle him and looks directly into her eyes while stating his interest. However, he doesn't allow her an opportunity to get overconfident by gushing. He merely lets her know that at this stage he's only curious. He makes sure he holds his eye contact with her until he forces her to look down and away. He's now in charge. Simplistic but effective. She eats it up, impressed by his confidence and wanting more of his attention resource. I'm going to stop here as I don't want my spoilers to extend beyond Act 1 in case you've never seen this film. The reasons I believe Mgtow should see this film are simple. It provides a look at the pitfalls and consequences of the cliché suburban dream scenario. It also provides a look at the beginnings of, and the eventualities of the narcissistic female nature. My recommends for this episode are the Showtime show, House of Lies, and the book called The Decision Book. House of Lies stars Don Cheadle as a heavyweight business consultant who allows various women in his life to fuck his shit up. The Decision Book, subtitled 50 Models for Strategic Thinking, is written by Michael Grogerhus and Roman Chapuler. It is a great tool that focuses on how to improve yourself, how to improve others, how to understand yourself better, and how to understand others better. What's great about it is that it uses visual tools you can apply as opposed to a ton of wordy text passages. Not sure what my next review is, so until next time, gents. Always remember, never take them seriously because more times than not, if they are breathing, they're lying.